Okay, so let's take a look at how we can use some of the methods that we came up with in our classwork to continue answering various parts of what was problem 615. So that's actually in your book on page 237, but I'm also going to write it out here, and you're just going to take notes on this. You don't also have to add it to your homework, but just taking notes on this. So this is number D in that case. And in number D, we're reading all about George. Let's see if I can get George on the camera here. So here's George. George is buying some CDs. Here's how much he's paying for each CD. And he also knows Nora. She bought the same number of CDs from a store online. Here's how much she paid. But she also had to pay for shipping. So what is the unknown that we want to know? What are our various unknowns? Well, we can go back here and write. So it asked us, how many CDs did George buy? It's a pretty good chance that that's the variable that we want to know. So I'm going to say, let G equal the number of CDs George bought. And it also tells us, let's get these guys back on here, it also tells us Nora bought the same number of CDs from an online store. So the number of CDs that George bought is also the number of CDs that Nora bought. I'll make a little note about that. Also, number of CDs for Nora. Okay, and then it's telling us the amount that they're each spending. So George is spending $15.95 per CD, but he doesn't have to pay for any shipping. So George is paying $15.95 for each CD he buys, so $15.95 times G, or $15.95G. That's the cost that George ends up spending. And we know that Nora, here's Nora's rate. Here's her rate per CD, but she also has to pay 8. So Nora is paying $13.95 per CD plus 8. Okay. And it's telling us that in the end, they both spent the exact same amount of money. So this amount is how much George spends. George. And this is how much Nora spends. And we want to know how many they bought. How many they bought. So if what George spends is equal to what Nora spends, and the number that George orders is equal to the number that Nora orders, well, we can set these two things equal to each other and end up with an equation with just one variable to solve for. So $15.95G. When is that going to be equal to $13.95G plus 8? So I could start off by subtracting $13.95G from both sides until I end up with 2G equals 8. Divide both sides by 2, and I end up with G equals 4. So this means George ordered 4 CDs. It also means Nora ordered 4 CDs. And it means that they both ended up spending the same amount on their CDs. And we could go back in and figure out what that amount would be. If George ordered 4, well, what would $15.95 times 4 be? And we know that that's going to be equal to whatever Nora spends, so let's double check that that's going to be equal to $13.95 times 4 plus 8. So go ahead and do your own simplification on that one. Check your work. And see if you can start using this method to crack into a couple of the other questions that we've got. See you tomorrow.